Valentine's Day is upon us, and if you're like me, you might have yet to find that special someone to spend it with. So who better to get dating advice from than good old Matt Walsh? Hey everyone, my name's Tristan Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. This video was actually released in October last year, and I deliberately held off on covering it until Valentine's Day. So we're going to look at Matt Walsh's how to and not to date to get married. This ought to be a fun one.
As a married man, I look at the modern dating scene like someone who ran out of a burning building seconds before it collapsed. Somebody on Twitter recently said that married people these days must feel like they caught the last chopper out of Nam. And perhaps that's the better analogy, whichever image you prefer. The point is that I wake up every day grateful to be married, mostly because, I love my wife and my family, but also because I simply could not be a single man in this environment. I would have already become a monk or a hermit in the woods by now. I don't say this to rub it in the faces of people in the audience who are single. I say it more as encouragement, really, for any who are married. Because even if you're struggling in your marriage, even if you and your spouse have hit hard times, consider that the alternative is to wander alone in this barren wasteland. Realize that all you have is each other.
Okay, so a few things right off the bat here. Is it true that, yes, dating is difficult and complicated, and pretty much everybody hates dating? People that are dating, like, with the intent of finding a relationship don't really like dating. Everyone talks about how much dating sucks and all these different things. And that's never not been the case. Matt Walsh likes to kind of purport this idea, and I talked about it before in a video I've covered of his as well, when he said how lazy Gen Z is. But basically, he likes to purport this idea, and a lot of conservatives do, of this mythological time where everything was just so much better than it was today, including things like dating. But the reality is, dating has always been a complicated thing and something that's been pretty tricky to navigate for everybody. We've only made it more difficult with the strict rules we put on people with who they can and can't date, with things like sexuality, or and how, like, for the longest time in a more puritanical conservative world, it's been demonized very much to date people of the same sex, for example. Many other things come into play with this as well, but that's just one example. Plus, of course, the puritanical view on dating, relationships, and sex in general is just so antithetical to actually developing healthy relationships, which is, of course, what this is all about here. But in any case, let's see if the answers that Matt Walsh has are actually good. Spoiler alert, they won't be.
There, it's dark and cold, and you'll likely die shivering and alone. So your marriage is your shelter. Be grateful for it. Stop screwing it up. Do you really want to start over again in this environment? Would you really prefer to be out there dating during the zombie apocalypse? Again, I'm not trying to make single people feel bad. It's more that I'm
actually, so funny thing about that, in times of, like, intense issues going on, yeah, people don't really think about dating that much, but people are often drawn closer together. And I don't know, that's just pointing out that his zombie apocalypse analogy might actually work against him there.
Commiserating with you. Now, many of the problems with modern dating and with modern culture in general and dating in general were highlighted by a recent viral phenomenon, which began on TikTok, as they often do, and then spread like herpes to other social media platforms, which is where I became aware of it.
Funny that he said spread like herpes, by the way. I know, constantly. But no, it is funny that he said spread like herpes, because herpes is actually, like, the most common STD or STI that you could get. And there's a big stigma around it for a lot of people, and there's no reason there should be. I mean, most STDs in general these days are pretty easily cured by taking simple medication for it, some kind of pill a lot of times that the doctor can give you. I think some require shots as well, but I'm not super well versed in the specifics of this. Anyway, yeah.
From what I can tell, it began when a woman used her platform to vent her frustrations about a man that she'd recently met on a dating app called Hinge, which I didn't even know existed until I heard about this.
Hinge is an interesting app. Hinge is a app where they actually say it is the dating app that is designed to be deleted. Um, of course, well, I don't know. I've heard people say that they have better success on Hinge than they do on like Tinder and different things. At least as far as finding a relationship, but they're all the same. They're all gamified and made to be like Tinder these days. So you know.
The man, Caleb, took her out on one date and then never talked to her again, otherwise known as ghosting, as the kids call it now. Other women on TikTok then chimed in with their own horror stories about the man who had quickly been dubbed West Elm Caleb, a moniker based on where he works. And soon his name was trending nationwide. He had been doxxed all across the internet. So here's just to give you an idea of what this is. Here's a quick sample.
That's fucked up, by the way. Don't do doxing. It's bad.
Of one of the video testimonials, and there are like hundreds like this, but one of the video testimonials that you might find detailing the dastardly crimes of this Caleb character. Here it is.
I matched with Caleb on Hinge and we started talking. We talked for like 2-3 weeks, maybe, like nothing serious. I never met this man, like literally just texting, Snapchatting, whatever. Same thing happened that everyone's talking about. He was super weird, like started getting very cryptic and concerning and ghosted. So he ghosted me. We stopped talking. I went my separate way. Didn't think of this man, was nothing really going on. And then, okay, so I go on with my life. I'm minding my own business until about a month ago, sometime during December, I see that I have an Instagram request.
Okay, just real quick. So this video by Matt Walsh was uploaded in October of 2022. She just said sometime last month in December. Matt Walsh said this is like a recent TikTok trend. Sounds like this happened at least a year before he even made this video. So I don't know if that says anything, but it just sounds like it might not be as recent and fresh as he made it seem.
DM request or whatever. And who could it be? Who could it be? It's him on his new Instagram account, not Caleb Hunter. Okay.
Just giving someone's name like that isn't necessarily doxing, by the way. Doxing is when you like give people's address and shit. Bad. Again, don't do that.
Riveting. Like I told you, I'm so glad I'm not dating anymore.
What was the issue with that? Like, he cut her off before she could finish the video. I don't know what the video was. Her TikTok name wasn't there or anything, so I have no idea how to search for it. But like, what was the issue? She went on a date. No, she didn't even. She said they were like talking. They were like talking, and okay, so like he wasn't intentional about setting up a date. And he ghosted her like that. Yeah, that happens. It's shitty when anybody ghosts anybody, but like, move on. Just move on to the next person. There's plenty of people out there. Like, okay.
With people like this is what you have to deal with. And I'm talking about the woman, not even the guy.
Yeah, but this same kind of thing can happen in real life too. This is just the real life equivalent to seeing somebody at like your local coffee shop, chatting them up, and then, you guys frequent the same place, and then after a while, they just start like avoiding you. I've experienced this in real life. I'm sure many of you have too. Everybody probably has. I've done this in real life. I'm sure everybody has, where like you just don't want to talk to the person anymore, but you don't like officially say, hey, I don't want to talk to you. You just like, avoid them. That's all ghosting really is.
Now, she went on in that video to post screenshots of the texts from Caleb where he tries to get back into her good graces after ignoring her for a year. She turns him down, and that's the end of it. So far as I can tell, all of the videos are like this. Caleb is guilty of being rude and tacky, and for that infraction, he apparently deserves to be doxxed and publicly shamed by women who are all almost certainly at least as shallow and selfish as he is. So there's a lot that can be said about the lack of proportionality when the internet mob sets its sights on someone. Local news stories become global concerns, and stories that wouldn't even be fit to air on the local news or to be written on a note card and tacked to a bulletin board somewhere still turn into national affairs. We could say plenty about that, but that's not what we're focused on today. Dating.
Did this become a national affair, though? Was this something where it was like all over the news, or is Matt just blowing it out of proportion?
Is the issue. And this story reveals its myriad pitfalls in our current climate. The whole scene is one big pit that so many millions fall into and never manage to escape. Marriage rates are plummeting rapidly and historically in this country, so that as of just 2 years ago, less than half of the households in the U.S. consisted of married couples and families. Now, to put that in perspective, in 1950, that number was 80%. So it used to be 80% of the households featured a married couple, was a family with a married couple. Now it's less than half.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. Just because it's a marriage, all that a marriage is it's a piece of paper showing that you and your partner are married to each other. And it is, I mean, there are legal benefits and tax breaks and all the shit that comes along with it too. But like, at the end of the day, I always like to say, you don't get married when you say, I do. You get married, like, you actual marriage is a choice that you and your partner make to each other every day. So like, it's not like you get married and then that's it. You're like, you never have to think about it again. No, every day you wake up, every day you choose your partner. You choose to be married to your partner. You choose to be committed to your partner. However that looks for you and your partner in your relationship, that's what your marriage is. But it doesn't have to have that legal aspect to it. It can, absolutely. And again, there are benefits that come to it. But like myself, I don't know if I ever want or care to be legally married. I believe people can be married in all but legality perfectly fine. And yeah.
And the numbers are still trending downward. There are numerous reasons for this catastrophic shift, but certainly one of the most prominent reasons is that our social system for matching people up, pairing them off, and setting them on the path towards marriage and parenthood and real adult life is fundamentally broken. So for one thing, everyone, of course, is using dating apps now, which are different even from the dating sites of ancient times back in the early 2000s when I was.
That is true. There was a point where everything was more like online forums and stuff. Now everything is just trying to be the next Tinder.
Single, we had the dating websites, and back then you would fill out a lengthy profile and you'd be given in return a comparatively small group of potential matches to contact. But now those old-fashioned websites have been replaced by apps which are much easier to use and to peruse, and most people have more than one that they monitor at any given time. It also
Yes, if you are doing online, okay. Part of me wants to wait till he gives his bad advice, but I'm just gonna say, like, if you want to find a good partner, the best thing to do is to cast the widest net possible, right? So you want to be going out and approaching people in real life. You want to be trying to meet people in real life, but you also want to be having Tinder, having Hinge, having OkCupid, having Plenty of Fish, having, you can go either way on Plenty of Fish, having Bumble, having, I don't know, I had all of them for a while, and but what you need to do to be successful at these apps is, here's the reality that a lot of people have an issue with these things. Dating, especially dating online, but dating in general, at first is shallow. That's something that everybody needs to just accept and deal with. Your appearance, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you interact with others, all that is your dating resume. How you present yourself, especially your pictures. Not even just how you look, but specifically your pictures and the ways that you have developed yourself and present yourself on a dating app are the most important thing. If you go and you make a profile and you give like I've done this, I've made this mistake, you just write lengthy answers to the questions and like a really lengthy profile and shit, you are going to be turning people away. What you want to do, especially as a man trying to attract women, what you want to do is to put things that are going to make people interested in you and leave enough room for them to ask questions. This is the same thing when it comes to the texting and stuff. The point of the app is to get them off the app as soon as you can. You get them off the app, you get their number, you get whatever it might be, and you're texting on there and you're setting up a date. A lot of people do this bullshit where they're just, oh, we're just talking. You've been talking for weeks. You've been talking. No. You get them on the off the app, on texting, on something else. Fucking do WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or something, for all I care. Like, whatever, just something where they're off of the dating app, and they are talking to you on a more personal level. And there you set up the date. Now, you can just set up the date on the app itself as well. You can do that. The reason you want to get them off is because, like, you don't want them. It's kind of like if you met someone in real life, you take them away from like everything else, and you're like, hey, let's talk. Let's because you're trying to like develop a type of intimate moment between you two and everything. So yeah, you want to do that kind of thing. And again, you don't want to have like super lengthy profiles that will turn people off. You want to have things that, again, are going to make people question things. So, like, instead of saying, I don't know, I like, maybe you work for a bank or something, or you work for, let's even say, no, let's not go with that one. Let's say whatever you work. I don't know, whatever you work for. Like, I'll just say, like, if I were to be doing this and I was actually doing this as a career, I would say, instead of saying like, oh, I'm a YouTuber, or I do this, I would say like, I don't know, actually, like I provide commentary or something like that, right? Or I'm in, a lot of people like to say they're in entertainment or creation or something like that, which is true. But anyway, you want to ask questions where then the person will ask like, oh, well, what do you, okay, I'll just say, for example, when I was helping my dad set up his profile, he had like all this information about him, like that he was in the Marines and all this, and like what he did in the Marines and what he did as a cop and all these different things. And I was like, no, don't do that. Say like, I've served in the military, I've served on the force, those kind of things. Put vague things so that people are going to ask you, oh, well, what did you do here? And then you have things to talk about on the date. You don't want to be like giving all answers and everything on the date or before the date. You don't want to, because you don't want to, the point of the date is to get to know each other. If you feel like you already know each other before you actually go on the date, there's no point of going on the date. The person will feel like, well, I know everything about them, and I know I'm not interested in them. I'm not interested to actually, go out with them because like they've told me everything. And at the same time, I understand, of course, wanting to, vet your date a little bit first. Obviously, you want to do that. One thing I recommend, by the way, is some kind of a FaceTime thing before you actually go out, before you go on a date. But have some integrity for yourself. Have self-respect. If you want to go on a date first, or you're trying to set up a date, and they're like, oh, I just like to talk to someone for a while first. Be like, okay, cool. Well, I want to set up the date. I want to do that. So when you're ready to do that and get to know each other that way, I'm down. Otherwise, see you around, right? Because you have to know for yourself and for them even that like there are plenty of other options. And if you're not seeing eye to eye on this, you might not see eye to eye on a lot of things in general, right? And you do want to be compatible. And even if you are using these apps, which they are very much designed for that more shallow, just hooking up experience, which there's nothing wrong with, by the way. Even if that is what you're after, you can still achieve that in these means as well. But be like honest with yourself and with them about what you want. And if you are, for example, just looking to see where things go, which is perfectly fine, be honest about that. Own that. Say, because I mean, what you could do, what I want to do, what I think a lot of people do, and I think is a very healthy way to go about it. You start casual, and then you move on from there. Like, okay, I'm starting with like, maybe we'll hook up, maybe we'll go on a date, maybe we'll do this, maybe and then if you find you get to like each other in general, then maybe you progress the relationship or something like that. But yeah, I don't actually remember what triggered that point that I was saying all that. But let me see, what did he just say?
To use and to peruse, and most people have more than one that they monitor at any given time.
Oh yeah, that's just general like dating app etiquette and stuff. Yeah. Continuing.
It doesn't require any effort or commitment to use the apps, and the user sort of swipes through it very quickly, casually discarding potential matches based on nothing but a cursory glance at their photograph.
Yeah, but again, but you could do the same thing. People have done the same thing at like a club. Or what he's angry about is, or yeah, what he's upset about, what he's taking issue with here is people having options, and you should have options. You should know that you have options, because then you know when you're with somebody that you actually like, or maybe even fall in love with, you're not settling for them. You're with them because you legitimately want to be with them. Like, you have other options, and you know, I don't care about those other people. I want to be with you.
So all judgments are made visually, which already distorts the entire process, because a woman's romantic attraction is not naturally as visually based as a man's.
God, I hate this. I hate this argument so much. It's so dumb. Women are just as visual as men, all right? Yes, women do care a lot about like the feelings and all that stuff, but the reality is, if a woman sees a hot person that they're attracted to, whether that be a man, a woman, a non-binary person, whatever, if a woman sees somebody that they find attractive, they are going to find them attractive, right? Like, there's no, I mean, you can look up, and I highly recommend, if you want to find like examples of what women typically find as like a hot guy, definitely look up. There's a great subreddit called r/ladyboners, and there was this thread I saw a while ago, and I don't know if I can find it again, but there was this thread on Twitter where they said, like, look, it was like, what are examples of like man whores or something like that, and they basically just meant, you know, men who can get it. And like one of the top posts on both of these was Jensen Ackles, specifically his portrayal as Soldier Boy in The Boys. But yeah, he's yeah, a lot of women love that shit. Well, yeah, women are just as, I mean, if you have a dude who is like super attractive and shit, the thing is, it's like, if we're talking long term, yes, obviously, just physical attraction isn't enough. However, in general, when we're talking about just getting your foot in the door, your looks are your resume. Your looks are what somebody judges you on, and not just your looks. Especially if you're out in public, it's how you carry yourself, how, you know, all these different things that I said before. But like, yeah, like, that's just how it is. You know what I mean? Like, you just you do what you can to stack the deck in your favor as much as you can, and you leave the rest up to everybody else. You make yourself look as good as you can, and you leave the rest up to other people to proceed accordingly, pursue you accordingly. You know, you put yourself out there, and you do that. But yeah, of course, it's shallow. Like, people are shallow, at least at first. You have to get. This is something that I have been like learning and understanding, and having to develop myself. I am personally very good at like the deep part of relationships and conversations and all that good stuff, but I suck at the shallow. Like, I'm very good with like all the other shit, but I'm learning really, like, for the first time, to be intentional about the shallow stuff, about like opening conversation, carrying conversation, escalating to a date, being intentional about the fact that I don't just want to be friends with this person, but that I'd actually like to go on a date with them or hook up with them, or, you know, all these different things, right? And knowing how to escalate to those things, like getting a number, getting laid, getting, you know, whatever it might be, right? Those are things that I'm in the process of learning. But the problem is, when you have people like Matt Walsh here, really kind of talking about this concept as if these are bad things, you push people away from the skills and the process that people actually generally need to follow in order to attract the kind of people that they want in their life and have the kind of relationships that they want.
And that's how a slovenly ogre like myself ends up marrying a hot woman. Because a woman is attracted to
All right, let's find out. All right, we're Matt Walsh W. Yeah, she's she pretty cute. What is this, JK? Oh, are those all their kids? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I see you, Matt. Wow. This is him next to Joe Rogan. Whatever, it doesn't matter. um, going off topic here. I wanted to find that because like a lot of people will say stuff like that, and then like you'll look up like their partner or whatever, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Personality, sense of humor, intelligence,
Hello.
but little of that translates through an app. Which
Yeah, but I'm sorry. A lot of people aren't going to give a shit about any of that and get to know any of that unless you are physically attractive as well. Because, like, you could be somebody who is like, yeah, you are like intelligent, maybe you click really well emotionally and shit. If you don't turn the person on, if you don't physically, if you're not physically attractive to them, unless they're like ace or something, you're not going to get far. Now, maybe you're somebody who like you're demi or something like that, and you know that's all well and good too. But for most people, if you're not physically attractive to somebody, they're not going to care, at least not initially, about the things that attract them to you emotionally or anything like that. Like they can find out those things like over time, but generally speaking, if you are trying to say start from just meeting somebody and going out with them and everything, if they're not attracted to you, they're not going to have a reason to get to know you. You know, they see you and they're like, well, I mean, you're not really my type, but like, you know, maybe, you know, they might, you know, some people might like, you know, give someone a chance and stuff, but it's just, I don't know. It's, yeah, it's just bad advice. I think people are a lot more shallow than a lot of people like to think. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we should know that, accept that, embrace that, and just act accordingly.
means that many quality mates are sent to the junk folder just because they're bad at taking selfies.
That is true. And by the way, okay. So I'm going to tell you real quick what I think is the best. It's not selfies, by the way. You don't, especially as a dude, you do not put a selfie as your picture. Let me repeat that. Especially as a man trying to attract women, you do not ever use a selfie as a image on your dating profile. You don't do it. You just do not do it. No bathroom mirror pics or anything like that, by the way. What the fuck are you doing? Anyway, moving on. Okay. So I say that, but I also want to say what I think would be a really good way to, like, if I developed a dating app the way that I would like it to be. The main thing is that the only way you could have a picture is you had to use the picture, like you couldn't upload a picture. You had to use the picture on your phone. Excuse me. You had to use the picture on your phone, or you would use the camera on your phone, snap the picture, and take a selfie. You can do your makeup however you want. You can do the lighting however you can do all that good stuff. But this would make people, like, no filters, no any of that. This would make people have to put their most authentic self in the moment forward as possible. This would make it as close to going out to a club and seeing somebody. Yeah, they're all done up. They're all like, you know, they're dressed well. They got their hair done. They got makeup on, whatever. But like at the same time, at least those are things that they can do in real life. You know, they're not using all these like crazy filters and shit. So that's yeah, that's one.
Meanwhile, there are far too many choices. So the modern dating scene is what happens when every beggar becomes a chooser.
This is anti-abundance mindset. This okay. So this is part of the problem that I have with like the conservative idea of dating and such. And I dealt with this a lot growing up religiously as well, and dealing with a sort of purity culture that I did as well, where it was kind of a virtue to not have other options and not believe you had other options, to have this one and only perfect partner, perfect soulmate that God made for you, and all the shit like that. And like, that's not true. That what that mentality does is that puts you into situations, as I've been in, where you hold on to relationships that aren't healthy because you feel like you believe that you were destined to be together. No. what you want to develop with these kind of things is you want to develop an abundance mentality where you can say, hey, I like you, but if things don't work out, I got plenty of other options. Not in like a dickish way. You don't actually tell them this. You might want to communicate this in some way, but yeah, you want to have other options because people aren't perfect. You're not going to necessarily find Mr. or Mrs. or whatever the non-binary version of Mr. or Mrs. would be, right, just by latching onto the first person that you see. A lot of people just kind of fall into relationships. Most people do, and that's fine if that's how you want to like go about that and everything. And you could still find a really good partner and be really happy. But if you want to find the best possible person for you, so that you can have the best relationship for yourself, the best thing to do is to develop abundance and go toward that, to realize like, yeah, I have tons of options. Now I can choose from those options as to who I want to be with. And if you don't want to settle down and don't want to be with just one person, maybe you want to be single, maybe you want to be poly or monogamish or whatever the fuck you want to be, like, that's all valid too. That's all well and good as long as you and the people in the relationship agree upon that standard. But this idea of like, oh, it's bad to like have other options. No, it's completely no, not at all.
Everyone is lonely and desperate for companionship, but the field is so flooded with options. There's such a surplus that you begin to feel like, kind of like I feel when I'm in the condiment aisle at Walmart trying to buy mustard.
Okay, just real quick on this. This is something a lot of the MRA and kind of red pill people love to talk about this shit. They like to talk about how women, specifically women, have too many options when it comes to men. And here's the reality. Yeah, they do. And you know why they do? Because a lot of men will just throw themselves at, let's be honest, anybody that has a wet hole that they're willing to let in. Let's be real. That's how a lot of guys are. A lot of guys will lower their standards more and more and are willing to just hook up with or date anybody that'll give them the time of day. That's just the truth. Men and women, more so men. Women already have done a pretty good job, I feel like, I don't know. Yeah, okay. What? No. I'm going to say men and women both equally, and all people just need to kind of like raise their standards to an extent. But also, like, be careful on what you raise your standards on. Because if it's going to be things like the shallow stuff, like amount of money, body type, I don't know, where someone went to school, or like what their name is. I've heard of that kind of, or like, things that people can't change and doesn't really say anything about them. Like, one guy's fixate on, of course, his height. Women might fixate on body count. People, of course, shouldn't be shamed for things like that. People shouldn't be shamed for things they can't change. Yeah, etc. and etc. But yes, it is true that women typically have too many options, too many for themselves even. The way to fix that, the real issue is that men don't have enough options. The way to fix that is become a man that has options. How do you do this? You stack the deck in your favor as much as you can. Guys, a lot of women talk about this, and it's true. The bar for being an attractive man in a lot of ways is on the floor. Like, for being a good... I mean, there are men that literally just will not, like, practice proper hygiene, wash regularly, dress well, treat women well. Like there's just... A lot of things that men struggle with the most are very easy to fix. A lot of them take time. I've talked to men before about how I'm working diligently to lose weight and build muscle, get in better shape, all that good stuff. And that definitely takes time. And I personally don't feel I'm ready to actually put myself back in the dating scene yet. But people in general, you stack the deck in your favor as much as you can. And yes, finances and stuff can play a part, especially as a man. They absolutely can. But as far as that goes, and I'll be covering a video on that relatively soon as well, if you attract women with money, you're going to get gold diggers. Now, If you want that, that's fine. If you want to attract women with, say, your physique, your image, things like that, yeah, you might get women that are a little bit more shallow. You also might get women that are a little more hot. I don't know. But generally speaking, I think the best is to have some kind of balance, right? So my technique, for lack of a better way to put it, is to kind of like attract and lure in women with like, the shallow stuff, like, the way that I look and present and all that stuff. And of course, like once we're actually dating, they'll get to know me better. I'll get to know them. But it's it's the same thing I do. I see a woman, she's hot. Let me go talk to her. Oh, cool. We're actually vibing and we're having this like really good conversation and shit. And oh, we actually like we're actually really compatible. Maybe we go home and sleep together. Could be and then we find out, oh hey, we're actually really compatible in bed too. We keep dating, get to know each other. Like that's how this shit works. Of course, you go at your own pace for all these different things. You don't have to go in any specific order or anything. But like, you just you yes, a lot of men definitely have this scarcity mindset, and if anything, a lot of women have overabundance where they feel like, oh, there's too much. I don't know like what to choose. Men, we have to get better about like building abundance both internally and building abundance for ourselves like externally, believing, realizing, and making it true that there is actually abundance. There are millions and billions of hot girls out there, hot available women that you could absolutely be with. I'm sure many men know this as well, but of course, if you're gay, a lot of this doesn't apply because a lot of gay dudes can just like get it whenever they want. A lot of gay dudes struggle with the same thing that a lot of straight women deal with. The reason for that is because basically, the way that dating it's not really an issue of like sexuality, it's an issue of like the way men date and the way women date. What men are looking for, similar straight, okay, gay men are often looking for the same kind of thing in other gay men that straight men are looking for in the same kind of thing in women. This is true across the board for a bunch of different things. It's not entirely like 100% obviously, but a lot of things is like, a lot of gay dudes are relatively shallow. I've heard many stories from gay friends that have, explained like, oh yeah, no, like they can hook up with a guy like any time, but getting them to stick around is an issue. Common issue a lot of women face too, because it's a men dating issue. It's not a gay or straight issue. So anyway. But yeah, build up that abundance, and it won't be a problem. Like everybody should have abundance. The world's your oyster.
And there are 197 different types of mustard. And though all I want is just regular mustard, the overwhelming array of options paralyzes me. And I'm just standing there slack-jawed, questioning whether I should be settling for just regular mustard when I could be getting gourmet, Dijon, whole grain, honey French, yellow, spicy brown, white, yellow, German mustard instead.
Hold up. I want to point something out. Notice what he said there.
Dijon, whole, questioning whether I should be settling for just regular mustard when I could be getting, standing there slack-jawed, questioning whether I should be settling for just regular mustard when
I should be just settling. What Matt Walsh wants you to do, and what a lot of conservatives and a lot of people in general want people to do with this kind of thing, is I love how I keep pausing on these weird frames of his too, but when he's making these faces. But a lot of this idea is that settling is good. Settling is not good. Settling in a relationship, in a job prospect, anything. Settling is generally not a good thing. Not if you are like ambitious and you want your life to be a certain way, you should not settle if it isn't going that way, because what the fuck are you doing? Like you don't want to settle. You do not want to settle. Like that's not good advice at all.
Could be getting,
because people, by the way, people that argue about this thing where they say like, oh, there's too many options. Why the hell, when I go into a store and I'm debating between like, oh, what brand of, okay, we'll use mustard. What brand of I just did this today with hot sauce at the store. I went and I said, what brand of hot sauce do I want? Okay, well, I have all these different flavors. I have these different prices. I have these different sizes. What do I want? And you know what I was able to do because I had all these different options to compare? I was able to choose the one that I wanted, the one that fit me best for what I wanted in that moment. Having more options with anything is not a bad thing. If you're that paralyzed and indecisive, and I'm pretty indecisive myself, if you're that paralyzed by choice and indecisive because there's like 10 different mustard brands to choose from, and you're that paralyzed and indecisive because there's like, I don't know, 5 different people you're dating at the same time or something, like, figure it out. That's the whole point.
In gourmet, Dijon, whole
The point is, more options are always a good thing, and yet this guy is making them sound like they're bad.
grain, honey French, yellow, spicy brown, white, yellow.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe you want honey mustard. Maybe you want brown mustard is really good, by the way. Deli mustard, all that stuff. Maybe like, yeah.
German mustard instead.
By the way, for anybody that is trying to lose weight or anything like that as well, mustards have mustard, regular mustard, yellow mustard has literally 0 calories, zero everything. It's got like no protein, no sugar, no salt, no anything like that either. But it's completely 0 calories. You can put it on anything, and it'll add flavor, and you won't have to worry about it, adding calories.
All of modern life is plagued by this problem. Everything is plentiful and can be obtained effortlessly and cheaply. But it's too plentiful and too effortless and too cheap. So you can turn on your TV and watch...
Anybody that is ever arguing against more choice for you is not in the right frame of mind.
Literally any movie that's ever been made, any TV show that's ever been produced. And yet how many nights have you wasted scrolling through the infinite catalog and then settling on reruns of, The Office because there's nothing else?
Never. I've never. I'm going to get crucified for this. I've never liked The Office. I've seen like a few episodes here and there. It's just not my cup of tea. But I do absolutely find shows that I want to binge watch. You just have to make the choice to say, okay, I'm going to sit down and actively decide to watch this TV show or that TV show or that movie, or I'm going to actively decide to pursue dating this person. That's the whole fucking point.
Else to watch. Well, there's plenty to watch. It's just that you can't settle on any one thing because your awareness that there are billions of other possibilities gives you anxiety.
Yeah, so the issue is you struggle with making decisions, not that there's too many options.
And it makes it so that you can never be sure that you're choosing the absolute best option, which means that often you don't choose anything at all.
Okay, I'm going to give possibly a weird example, but an example nonetheless. My favorite color, I say, and it is black. But the reason it's black is because black is, in art, the combination of all colors put together. I'm aware black is the absolute color, yada, yada, whatever. Also, white is the absolute color in art, so checkmate. But anyway, I really like, I like black for that reason, and I really like black with like rainbow aesthetic things like this. That's why I use this as one of my main backgrounds for a lot of stuff. Of course, not right now because this is for the Valentine's Day themed stuff. But anyway, yeah. I love the color black, and while it's true that there are all these different colors, I can't choose one. I don't have to choose one. You don't have to choose one of anything if you don't want to. Again, having something where you have all these different options to choose from is not a bad thing. I mean, it doesn't, like, we don't do this with anything else. I mean, he did it with Netflix, because, like, yes, that does happen, but what he's arguing for is a world in which you have no choice, or you have very limited choice, and that's just not a world that anybody would really want to live in, even him.
So dating is like this now. Whereas before you had only the eligible single people in your town to choose from, now you have the entire internet. You're not confined by geographic boundaries or any other boundaries.
You are still confined by geographic boundaries to an extent, depending on how far you set your radius to be to match with people.
The result, ironically, is paralysis. Now, on the complete opposite end of this spectrum are arranged marriages. Instead
This motherfucker is about to talk positively about arranged marriages. All right. I'm going to give another example real quick here, because he used his mustard example. I'm currently drinking Pepsi Zero Sugar. There you go. Pepsi Zero Sugar. I had the choice when I decided to get this tonight while I was shopping. I had the choice to decide, do I want Pepsi Sugar? Do I want Pepsi Zero Sugar? Do I want Coke Zero? Do I want Mountain Dew Zero? Of course I was choosing zero because, no calories, all that good stuff. Which of these do I want? And because I had those options, that was a lot better than walking in and saying well, that's my only option, so I got to take that. I can't wrap my head around, there's no positive to limiting options. That's not a good thing. And that was something that it was television in the Soviet Union. They had a very limited amount of what people could actually watch. And when you have these things, right, we're talking the Soviet Union in the Cold War and all that. When you have these moments, when you have these things where you are limiting people's access to different entertainment, different people, all these different things, and you're saying you have this small amount to choose from, that isn't a good thing. More options allows people to make the best decision. So again, the issue is not that, people have too many options. The issue is oftentimes, especially women have too many options, men don't have enough options, and it becomes very difficult because both people aren't operating on a level playing field in that regard.
of a boundless, never-ending buffet of options, a young person in a culture that practices arranged marriages will be assigned just one, and they don't even make the choice. Their families just pair them up and say, here you go. There's far less freedom and far less autonomy in a system of that sort, but it is without a doubt superior to our system. We would be...
This motherfucker just said arranged marriages are better than having too many options. This man has also argued for things like child marriage before. Yeah.
Be happier. Every person in the dating scene right now would be happier if they were just matched up with someone against their will.
No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. If people were matched up with others against their will, they would do the same things that people who have been in arranged marriages have done in real life. A big one is infidelity. Not that infidelity is ever good in marriages and relationships where people can actually choose their partners, but in arranged marriages and stuff like that, yeah, I can understand needing to cheat on your spouse that you were arranged a marriage to because you didn't love them. You know, a lot of people got married for it was something with like combining the powers of families and different shit like that with like royalty and all that. But this motherfucker is actually arguing for arranged marriage. This is wild. This is absolutely insane. And he's saying arranged marriages, having no choice is better than having too many choices. That is a wild statement, and it is just so untrue.
Actually. Of course, even after you settle on a match and you meet them in person, a whole new set of problem arises. It would be impossible to review the whole list, but one of the big problems is that if you're in the younger generations, you're meeting someone who was raised on the internet, just like you. Having spent their formative years staring at screens, they oftentimes will not have developed the kind of interests and hobbies and rich interior life that could form the basis for conversation and for interpersonal bonding.
Oh my God.
You also don't know where to go on a date or what to do because nobody wants to do anything but stare at their phones. And as the relationship progresses, if it does, you'll find that the internet also interferes with emotional intimacy because there's nothing private or sacred between you. Private life doesn't exist anymore.
Oh my god.
Especially
he God, it is so fucking nostalgia blind. It is so old thing good, bad, or old thing good, bad, or damn it, old thing good, new thing bad. Like that is the entirety. And I mean, like, you know, that's like conservatism in a nutshell, obviously. But like, holy shit, man. Don't know where to go for a date? Something casual and fun. And that's it. Just something casual and fun where you can just get to know each other. You don't want to take someone out on like some extravagant date where you're spending a shit ton of money because fuck that. You just met the person. You don't even know if you click or anything. Like, no. You want to take them to like a bar or a walk or something where you can just calmly in an environment just kind of get to know each other, you know? Like that's the point of the first date. Get to know each other, see how you vibe, all that shit. Oh god, it's so fucking wild. And then this like, oh, they don't want to put their phone down. I have been in a relationship where the girl did not, she was very frequently on her phone. And yes, that was an issue, but that isn't an issue with dating. That was an issue with her specifically. It also could have been an issue with how I took it to an extent. You know, I didn't have to take it as personally as I did. But like me, when I'm with somebody, especially in a romantic context, but when I'm with somebody, I try to like completely disconnect from technology. I am generally immersed in what I'm saying to the person, what's going on, all those different things, right? I try my best to like unplug. And you can, and I've heard women talk about this as well. For example, well, they weren't women at the time. I've heard when I was in high school, girls would talk about this concept of like, I turn my phone off and I have my date give me my phone and turn it off too. And yeah, of course, yeah, that makes sense, right? Turn your phone off, put it on silent, do not disturb, whatever you need to do. Make it so that you're devoting your time and energy to the person that you're on the date with. You're not devoting your time and energy like elsewhere, or you're not like dividing your time and energy is more like it. Like issues that can't be dealt with. And they are very internal. I grew up on the internet. I practically live on the internet. I practically lived on YouTube since I was like 13. And yet, I understand that when I'm with another person, especially in a romantic context, it's good to unplug and just be with that person. Enjoy that moment. I do the same thing in real life in general. I've never been one to like stop and take pictures of everything, you know? But that's an internal you thing. That's not a technology bad thing, you know?
For younger people. People live their whole lives in public, sharing every...
Also, if the person is that more interested in their phone than you on the date, they're just not that into you. It's better to cut your losses. Be like, hey, look, clearly, you know, you're not really into this. Have respect for yourself. Walk out, you know? Do whatever. Do whatever you need to do. End the date.
Everything with the world and leaving no parts of themselves emotionally or very often physically that are special or exclusive for their significant other. And then there's the biggest hurdle of all. One which has been standing in the way ever since the modern concept of dating was first invented decades ago, but which has only grown larger and more insurmountable as the decades have gone by. And that is, there's no goal with dating. There's no endpoint. There's no resolution. There's no logical progression.
Yes, there is. What?
So those women complain about getting ghosted by Caleb, but what are they really complaining about?
Poor Caleb, by the way. He's just getting dragged here.
Did they see him as
Matt Walsh is dragging him more than the girl did.
Marriage material? Were they even looking for a man to marry? I'm guessing not.
Probably yes. Most people do date in order to get married, but even if you're not, there's nothing wrong with that. Even if you're not dating to find like a partner to actually spend your life with and you are just dating casually, that's fine as well. Whatever, you do you.
And if not, then their relationship with Caleb was doomed to fall apart anyway, sooner than later.
No, oh my God. Okay, this is something, and again, I know this firsthand, that keeps people in unhealthy relationships, where they think that if a marriage or relationship, whatever it is, ends, then it was a failure. That is not true. A relationship that ends, however it ends, as long as it ends amicably and it wasn't some kind of like, I don't know, you cheated on me, you betrayed me, I don't know, stole money from me or whatever it might be, right? Anything. As long as it doesn't end on bad terms, it could still have been a successful relationship and it could still have ended well. But just because it ended doesn't mean it was a failure. And that mentality causes people to stay in relationships like I have because they think, well, if it ends, I'm a failure. I've failed this relationship. This relationship has failed. I didn't hold on long enough. When in reality, sometimes you just need to cut your losses, move on.
Just as all of their other relationships before and since have. What difference does it make if he disappears after one date or if he sticks around and the whole thing dissolves after 3 months? Who cares?
What difference does it make if he sticks around for one date or if you date for years and years, finally get married, and then one day realize you're just not really compatible and you get a divorce? What the hell, man?
You're just hopping into one car after another and each is going over a cliff. Does it really matter if it tumbles over the edge after 1 mile or 10? The whole enterprise is so fundamentally hopeless and pointless that, if anything, the Calebs of the world do you a favor by wasting less of your time.
That is true. The Calebs of the... Poor Caleb. But yeah, no, the people... Yes, absolutely. The people that don't give you the time or aren't on the same page with you, they are doing you a favor. They're just communicating, hey, we're not on the same level here. So you thank you next. You cut your losses and you move on. Abundance, my friends.
So here's the reality. There's no reason to be dating at all unless you're specifically looking for somebody to marry.
Incorrect. If you are looking for somebody to marry and that is your purpose for dating, then yes, that is your purpose for dating. If you're just looking for, and again, what do you define marriage as? But we already talked about that. But if you are looking for somebody, you just want to date someone for a while, you just want to have fun. Maybe you're just dating casually and you enjoy being single and you're just, what if you're like vacationing or something? You're like, I'm not going to stay here forever, but like, I want to date and have some fun while I can, that kind of thing, right? Nothing wrong with any of that.
You have no interest in marriage, then all of your romantic relationships are doomed before they start.
No. Not as long as you and your partner are on the same page. Or like, okay, I'll give another example. I could be on a date with someone, and maybe I can tell this isn't going to last like long term, we're not really vibing, but maybe we're still attracted to each other, maybe we still have chemistry. Maybe we realize, hey, we might actually work really well as like, friends with benefits, or we could date casually for a while, but like we both realize this isn't going to go anywhere. And if we agree to have that kind of relationship, that's perfectly fine. It all depends on what you and the person who you're dating in this instance agree upon. That's all that matters.
You're building sandcastles during high tide. It's all going to be washed away before it can be finished. You're making a series of bad emotional investments, pouring yourself into one leaky container after another. It's no wonder that marriage rates are plummeting. People are exhausted by romantic relationships and jaded by the whole enterprise before they even reach 25 years old, because they've been betrayed and heartbroken and dumped and humiliated enough for 50 lifetimes. That's what happens when you take the courtship out of dating. Only solution is to put it back in. Really forget about dating completely, in fact. Replace dating with courting. Don't waste your time on people who have no goal for their relationship, because marriage should always be the desired endpoint. Courting is the trial period, the interview process that both partners are undergoing.
This motherfucker really just wants to go back to like the 18 or 1700s.
You're interviewing each other for the job.
That's what the date is. Holy shit! You sit down and you have drinks with somebody. You go on a walk. You do something where you're just, yes, you're sitting down and you're interviewing each other. That is the date. What the fuck are you talking about? That you don't have to. Courting is where specifically when you have people. Oftentimes the parents were involved in courting, and they would like kind of escort you and your date. And normally it would of course be the man courting the woman. You know, the parents would be involved. You know, but like you're still doing the same except not with the parents, but you're still doing the same concept of like we're intentionally getting to know each other in the hopes that there's something here. Maybe it's just physical, maybe it's emotional, maybe there's nothing at all, and this is just, hey, it was nice to have some drinks with a good person, or hey, it was nice to have a nice dinner with a person, something like that, right? But like, you don't have to. Oh my god, this mentality just puts way too much pressure on people. One of the problems with it.
If you approach dating that way, it will significantly reduce your options. That's for sure. But as we've seen, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No. All you did was cry about how there's too much mustard for you to choose, and you compared it to choosing dating partners. You didn't actually explain how choosing too many options, or having too many options to choose from, is actually a bad thing. It isn't a bad thing.
Does it make sense that
And I actually did explain how it's a good thing, so yeah.
the same company...
Oh, sponsor time. Okay, let's see here. I love most replayed after the sponsor segment. Yeah, of course.
To get 3 extra months free. There was a little bit of a delayed reaction, but finally yesterday, Tuesday, the usual suspect...
Wait, did he... Oh yeah, different shirt. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
...decided to be offended by my show on Monday, where we talked about, among other things, the perils of modern dating. And as
Wait, was that live? Was that originally live? I don't know if he does like a live show or what have you. Whatever.
you might recall, during the course of that conversation, I observed that one of the myriad problems with the dating scene is that there are far too many options, which are arranged far too conveniently and superficially on dating apps for you to scroll through like you're shopping for a mate on Amazon or something. We've talked about the familiar irony of modern...
You know, it's so funny that these like staunch pro-capitalists don't actually talk well about capitalism and things like this. I mean, granted, this kind of stuff could exist without capitalism, the actual competition and things of that nature. But like, yeah, dude, that's how it works. You have people have other options to choose from. Customers, so to speak, have other options to choose from in the marketplace, whether that be the dating market or the supermarket or like whatever the case. Yeah.
Life where the surplus of choices tends to paralyze us. It breeds indecision and anxiety. You're afraid to pick one thing because you're aware that there are a million other options. How can you know that this is the right one? Why not just hold out for the next one and the one after that and the one after that forever? Now, I'm far from the first person to point this out. As much as I'd like to take credit for the insight, I certainly can't.
By the way, I would say it's not so much about holding out for the next one and the next one, but rather like have a person and you're like, hey, I like this person. And then you date someone else. Hey, I like this person too. Hey, I like this person too. And you're like dating multiple people at the same time who all know about each other. Well, they don't necessarily know about each other, but like, you're open with the fact that, yeah, I'm seeing other people. Like, yeah, of course, I'm seeing other people too. Like, duh. And then you're choosing from all those people that you're seeing simultaneously, which of them do you actually like the best?
The paradox of choice is something that many cultural critics and analysts have noticed over the years. In fact, one of them wrote a book called The Paradox of Choice about this very problem, specifically as it relates to consumers. Another book that touches on these themes, which I read a few months ago, is called The World Beyond Your Head by Matthew Crawford, which I highly recommend. And he talks about how craftsmen will use a strategy called jigging, which intentionally limits or constrains their environment so that they can work in a more focused and efficient way. So again, we see the paradox.
I'm actually getting kind of tired here. It's kind of late as I'm recording right now, but I'm gonna power through and finish this video here because goddamn, Matt's not helping though with the tiredness. I will say.
Limitations can be freeing in that they enable you to accomplish one particular task, achieve one particular goal in an environment specifically and specially designed for it. What we find is that in a world without limitation, where everyone can do everything, nobody ends up doing anything.
God, is this just his whole, we have we have too many options, there's too many mustard options to choose from, and that's the same thing as too many dating partners? Like, bro, the more options you have, the more of an informed decision you can make as a consumer. This is true for literally everything. What is your... Okay.
I think this is part of the story with dating. I also mentioned, as one brief aside, that arranged marriages, which is a system that has been in place historically in many cultures, that exists on the opposite end of this spectrum. They are the extreme antithesis of our current approach to dating. I said that even arranged marriages, would be preferable to our current system. And not too surprisingly, that is the one single sentence in a 14-minute discussion of dating that the left has latched onto. So first, Media Matters published their urgent headline, Daily Wire host endorses arranged marriages.
You did. No, he can't, you can't do that. You went on for like, what, 5 minutes of the original, like, 10 or whatever here, about how great arranged marriages are and how terrible choices. Yes, you absolutely endorsed arranged marriages. You don't get to be like, oh, well, I was taken out of context. No, you fucking weren't. No, you absolutely weren't taken out of context. Like, that was everything you said.
It is without a doubt superior to our system. That's quoting me.
That's what you just said it again. What the fuck?
Then my good friend Jason Campbell over at Media Matters posted the clip to Twitter, and from there, some of the left-wing blogs and YouTube channels.
Also, just to be clear, Medium articles honestly don't really mean anything. They can be written by anybody, whenever, and taken down whenever. I have seen some really good Medium articles that I saved just because I liked them a lot. Things that they talked about things like this, about dating and sex and relationships and all this stuff, and marriage and all that. And the authors took them down. I'm like, shit, those were some really good articles too. They were really good, but they're gone now.
Picked it up, and as a consequence of all of this, my inbox this morning was full of some very interesting commentary, much of it revolving around the theme that I am a horrible, backwards, archaic caveman, and I deserve to die a painful and humiliating death.
I wouldn't agree with the second part, but yes, you've demonstrated on multiple occasions you are definitely the former.
So really just your average Wednesday, I suppose. Of course, contrary to the claims made by my critics here, I didn't say that arranged marriages are the best option, just that they're better than our current system, which I'll say again because it's true.
And that's what the article said. It didn't say that you said it was the best option. It said... Okay.
I also think that literally anything would be better than our current system. A national lottery pulling names out of a hat and pairing couples up that way would be better. You could have someone, in fact, I'll volunteer for this job. You could have someone just walk down the street and point to random people like, you marry her, you two get married. And that would be better. Which speaks not to the wisdom of that alternative, but to the disastrous nature of our modern approach.
Yeah, the disastrous approach of letting people find others that they actually connect with and want to form a relationship with. Instead, just force them to be with somebody for the rest of their life without any say, and figuring out if they're actually compatible and things of that nature. Would you make this kind of argument for friends? Why is it always that when it comes to dating, it's this like really weird like view of it that people have, when it's like, you know, I used to say, and I kind of still believe this, although of course you can do this without being married, but your marriage partner is just your best, or should be at least, your best friend that you have sex with. That's it. Or your roommate, that you have sex, but should be your best friend too. Who goes and says like, oh, you have too many friends, you have too many best friends. Like, oh, we have such a problem with people finding friends. Like, no, like people are too paralyzed for the choice of friends. No, it's just with dating. The only difference when it comes to dating and romantic and sexual relationships is the romantic and sexual part. Everything else is like, you should be friends. Like, yeah, you should, like, you and your partner should be best friends. Like, yeah. And you're not going to get that if you're, like, just forced into it with each other. What the hell?
System, the one that I actually do advocate for.
Also, just imagine if someone like Matt Walsh did go around and just point to people, you get married, you get married. You know it would be only cis hetero people, and you know it would only be like, and I don't mean like actually cis hetero people. I mean like he could pick like a gay man and a lesbian woman and like be like, you get married, you get married, and yet they wouldn't even be into each other. Or and he's not going to put like he's not going to do miscegenation. He's not going to put like a black person with a white person or anything like that. Oh God, no.
Is, as I said, courtship. You might call that dating with a purpose, goal-oriented dating, whatever label you want to put on it. The point is that couples begin dating with the goal of marriage in mind. Now, I've been criticized quite a bit for that suggestion as well, because it is, I'm told, old-fashioned, out of touch, reactionary, and I'll gladly embrace all those labels. But one of the great advantages of the courtship system is that at the moment that either member in this partnership realizes that they cannot or do not want to marry the other person, the relationship is broken off, the marital interview process is concluded, and both can now go and seek different applicants. They don't have to waste so much of their time.
That is what dating is. The only difference is that modern dating is less formal. But yes, the courting process was the precursor to dating. Like to what we have now is modern dating.
Because there's a determined endpoint.
There's a determined endpoint for most people that date. Most people that date are looking for somebody to marry. Yeah, a lot of people are just dating casually and they're not ready to be with someone seriously yet, and they are just like casually dating and hooking up or whatever. But most people that are like actually dating are dating to find someone to spend the rest of their life with. And just to be clear, even if you are just dating casually, there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with dating intentionally to find somebody to spend the rest of your life with either. Just like, again, as long as you're honest with yourself and the person you're dating, it's all good.
Which is either marriage or not marriage. And once you realize you've gotten to that point where you're going to be a marriage, or you know that there's not going to be any marriage, now you can move to the next phase, which would be marriage or just going your separate ways.
Sounds like he's talking more about just like being engaged to somebody, because you can break off engagements too.
Now, there's no guarantee that anybody who adopts this strategy will immediately find the love of their lives and live happily ever after. Even if you get married, as we all know, that certainly is no guarantee that you'll live happily ever after. Because you have to live day by day and moment by moment. We don't live in like chunks where you can just cross some kind of threshold and announce, well, I've done this, so now the next 50 years of my life will be happy and fulfilled. Doesn't work that way. If you want a happy and fulfilled life or a happy and fulfilled marriage, you have to make that choice every day and renew it the next day and the next day and the day after.
Okay, this much I do agree with. I talked about that before, how like you choose to be married to your partner every day, yeah.
After that, forever and ever. Love is an act of will. It's a choice. It's not merely an emotion.
To quote John Mayer, love is a verb.
Emotional experience of love is, if anything, a byproduct. It's not the fuel that keeps your marriage running. The fuel is the choice you both make to serve each other, sacrifice for each other, and remain loyal and faithful. This is another problem, is this overemphasis on emotions, where our emotional fulfillment on purely an emotional level is the entire point for a lot of people. That's what they think. And the problem is that emotions come and go, they ebb and flow, emotions are fleeting. And so they go off and they get married, and they're feeling the emotional rush, the honeymoon. We talk about the honeymoon, and these days we say honeymoon, and we're talking about the week-long vacation that you take to Europe or a cruise or whatever. But traditionally, honeymoon is a phase of marriage early on, and that's when your emotions are kicked into high gear and all of those things. And there's this infatuation, and when that starts to settle down a little bit, people that are guided only by their emotions, they'll say, oh, well, I guess this wasn't the right one. In fact,
Yes. So if you can acknowledge that, can't you then realize why just forcing people to be married and figure it out is a horrible idea? or saying like, oh, you guys have some interest in each other, you should get married right away. No, because that's the whole point. Once that initial infatuation kind of simmers down, you're past that honeymoon phase, yes, you are going to have those moments where you need to just figure out life together and figure out if you really want to be together and all those different things. You're completely just, I don't know, I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for here is, debunking his own argument.
Just read an article about Pamela Anderson, who unfortunately is just divorced. I think it's her 5th husband. And for some reason, I read the article, and it quotes her or someone familiar with her as saying that, oh, she realized that he's not the one. So she's like in her 60s now, and she just left her 5th guy. Oh, because he's not the one. She's still pursuing the one. What do you think you're looking for? You're looking for someone who will give you that emotional satisfaction every second of the day forever. And the moment those emotions fade away for even a moment, then you say, well, this is not the one for me.
That's not normally how it works. Okay, so I don't know if I've talked about this before or not, but my parents growing up were not happy for pretty much all of my childhood that I grew up with them. And I would tell them, because I would speak to them individually. That was kind of like their counselor separately, and I did this since I was a kid. So, not the best, but they would vent to me about their relationship with each other and stuff. And when I got old enough, around 16, 17, 18, I started telling them, like, I think you guys need to sit down and talk about shit and, like, figure it out, or you need to get a divorce. Now they actually have a divorce. They got divorced about a year after I moved out, and they've both never been happier. I have a great relationship with both of them now separately, but together they were awful, just awful. They brought out the worst in each other constantly. They were not. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And I've seen firsthand what it looks like when people try to hold on to a relationship like this because they don't believe in divorce or some shit like that. But when people wake up and realize that they don't want to be with the person anymore, it's not really how it happens. It's more of a slow burn. It's just kind of like over time, maybe the passion leaves, the emotional connection leaves, the drive leaves, the compatibility leaves, or at least you start to realize more and more, hey, we really don't have anything. And if that's the case, what people do is they realize in that situation that they are not happy. They don't want to be with that person anymore. So what Matt Walsh is arguing for here is, or what the result at least is of this, is people staying in relationships where they are miserable, cheating on their partner because they're inevitably going to, or just staying with them and being miserable entirely, and not having any joy out of a relationship in life in general. It's like, oh, just get married, and if you're miserable, just deal with it. That's not. No, that's a terrible way to do any of this.
Now, in order to even get in the door and have the chance to maintain a marriage or screw it up, you have to go into your dating quest with a sense of purpose. Life in America today is plagued by purposelessness. You've heard me talk about this many times because I think it's our central problem. This is related to the issue of there being too many choices. It makes that problem all the worse because how are you supposed to know how to navigate all the choices and select the right option if you don't know what you're looking for or why you're looking for it in the first place?
No. The reason we have a sense of purposelessness is because, for one, we live in a capitalist society that only values things that are going to produce financial gain, and people are told constantly any passions that they have, whether that be artistic, philosophical, other things, if they aren't something that they can make money off of, they're basically told, "Oh, you can do that as a hobby. You can do that like that's cute. That's a like little fun thing you can do. But like, what are you really doing with your life?" It's like, well, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to do. Yeah, but how can you make money off it? We live in a society that only rewards working for the dollar. Like, it does not reward people actually having purpose and going toward their passions and living a life that they are actually happy about. So that's one of the big issues. We are also very alienated from our own production and from the work that we do. Worker alienation from our product is a huge issue we deal with as well. We're very alienated from other people in general, which is one of the things that makes dating so hard as well. And all of these different things just pile up to create this sense of purposelessness that Matt Walsh is hammering on about. But it is not because we have too many options. The reality is we don't have enough options for things that we actually want to do.
Americans are experiencing record levels of despair and anxiety, not because there's some mysterious mental illness going around, but because many people have no sense of meaning or purpose in their lives. This attitude is brought into their relationships and their pursuit of relationships, and it's why the dating scene is so miserable and marriage rates are plummeting. I suggest that we restore our sense of meaning and purpose. And that's a suggestion that is treated as controversial by those who would prefer for everyone to remain mentally paralyzed and in despair.
Jesus Christ. That was, unironically, some of the worst dating advice I have ever seen. Yeah, so what that ultimately came down to, wait, didn't he say like top 10? Or no, it was just how to and not to date to get married. Okay. Yeah, so his whole thing is basically, we have too many options and that paralyzes people because I can't decide between a bottle of mustard at the store. And we have... Oh, arranged marriages are actually better because the less options people have, the more likely they are to make the right choice, which is completely antithetical, it will have the exact opposite effect. But something that I struggled with for a long time, for years, was this notion of like, I want to date to get married, I want to be intentional about dating, I don't want to do these hookups and all these different things, yada, yada, yada. Now, a lot of that was enforced due to my religious upbringing and beliefs and purity culture that I kind of experienced a little bit as well. But if you legitimately want to date only to find like that special someone, more power to you. But the reality is, you're not going to find that special someone without going through the process of finding that special someone. Part of the problem with dating is a lot of people focus way too much on finding the right person instead of being the right person. What you want to focus on more than anything, especially at first, is being the right person. Like I said, increase your attractiveness, stack the deck in your favor as much as you can. That's one thing. But just in general, become the kind of person that you would want to date, if that makes sense. Like, become the kind of person where you could say, if I was whatever gender or person you're attracted to, I would date myself. And if you wouldn't, for whatever reason, there's a problem. Now, I know that if I knew myself as, like, as a woman, I'd want to date myself. But I wouldn't know that or think that just by seeing me, which is why I'm working so much on the external part for myself. A lot of people need to work on the internal, but a lot of people need to work on the external as well. Whatever you need to work on, whatever you need to improve about yourself, do it. Like, find things that you can improve, that you can make better, change what you can, accept what you can't, and just do what you can to make yourself the best possible candidate for other people. Some people call this sexual market value. People call this all kind of different things. At the end of the day, it's just making yourself more attractive. And you're never going to be attractive to everybody, but you can do your best to be proud of and confident in yourself and attract people who are going to find that attractive and find your appearance and everything else about you attractive as well. But again, a lot of people really are just shallow. Like that, I'm sorry, that's just how it is. So like, if you want to attract somebody, like I always say this about guys who complain about women, they're like, oh, women just want chads and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, are you going for the women that are like in your league, as it were? Are you going for the women that are not that attractive to you? No, you're passing them up because you're not interested in them. They're doing the same thing to you, and they have every right to. If you want people that you are physically attracted to, you generally need to be physically attractive yourself. That's just one of the many aspects. But like, again, the best advice I can give for dating, and this is something I'm working on very much myself, figure out what the kind of person that you want to date likes. Like, who is the kind of person you're looking for, and then become that person. Whatever you need to do that, do it. And you will be fine. You want to really do the opposite of what Matt Walsh says. You want to have abundance. You want to know that you have plenty of options and can find people that you are romantically and or sexually attracted to, and you want to have those relationships with those people. And you don't want to put yourself in this scarcity mindset where you think every person that you're dating, oh, you have to fall in love with and spend the rest of your life with because you went on one date with them or you hooked up with them one time. Like, that is not a generally healthy way to go about this stuff. So, at the end of the day, everything that Matt Walsh says, do the opposite, which is probably just good life advice in general, even outside of dating advice. But in any case, as always, these are just my thoughts. Please let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more. Subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like, and if not, I hope you find something to do like. Later, guys. Peace and love, and happy Valentine's Day.